senior fraud manager with the charity Victim Support. She says the setup is designed to reel victims in quickly.
I think this particular scam is so successful because you are getting people that mirror you in terms of, you know, they look like you, they're female, you know, they could possibly be of a similar age to yourself. They are speaking your own language. It's a gentle introduction, and then they will be working up, won't they, towards, well, this is what needs to happen next, and then if another person joins the scenario, you already feel at ease with that first person, so you're not necessarily seeing any red flags that make you walk away.
Reports about the blessing scam seem to have first surfaced in Hong Kong around the start of this century. It's since spread across the Chinese diaspora, with police in the US and Canada both issuing warnings over the past year. Anqi Shen is a law professor at Farnborough University in the north of England. She's also a former Chinese police officer. She believes the blessing scam is the latest example of a centuries-old tradition of street crime that exploits spiritual beliefs. It's well known within the community that older Chinese people are likely to keep cash and certain valuable items within easy reach at home. And it's those things which victims are told to bring to be blessed.
Chinese people tend to keep some valuable jewelry, especially pieces made of gold, silver, jade. Themselves are believed to hold protective powers. So it is commonly believed that valuable items which have been blessed offer even greater protection. And I think that also plays an important role in this crime.
So the producer in me is trying to always fix something or find solutions.
This is Tue Van Huynh. She's a theatre and film director turned activist.
If you are a victim or know someone who's fallen victim of the blessing scam, please do contact me for a chat or assistance.
That's part of an Instagram video for Tue's Blessing Scams Victims campaign. Tue is how I first heard about this story. She got in touch after hearing my investigation about fake Chinese police. Tue says her campaign began after her elderly mother was scammed in May. Her mum was out shopping in East London when three women, playing the same roles, persuaded her that Tue's brother was threatened by evil spirits. Tue showed me CCTV footage she tracked down of her mum with the scammers. You can see her mum handing over a bag to be blessed. It was only later she discovered her valuables had been switched for bottles of water.
I understand that we're not going to get things back, but there is a possibility to prevent more happening and scaring the criminals into thinking that they can't do this.
As well as raising awareness, Tue says she's also fundraising to pay for counselling for victims.
There's this whole feeling of shame and guilt. Some of them haven't even reported it to the police.
Tue's mother didn't recall what happened to her until the day after. The experience hit her really hard. She can't explain how the crooks gained such a hold over her so quickly.
So it's really hard for me to understand the whole process, and you know, they played on superstitious beliefs and spirits and ghosts, and you know, no, my mum doesn't believe in that. I do hold some superstitious beliefs. I don't believe it for a second that she believes that.
Tue wondered if something else might have been involved. She began to research if there was a drug that could have put her mum under somebody's influence, but also leave her lucid enough to gather valuables from hiding places around her home.
I kind of gleaned that it's a possibility that there's this drug called the devil's breath.
Tue's theory is really quite extreme, but then so is devil's breath, or scopolamine to use its proper pharmaceutical name. As its nickname suggests, it's a drug with a terrifying reputation. A 2012 Vice documentary branded it the world's scariest drug. Devil's breath is derived from a flower that grows in Colombia, and in the right dose it can reportedly make people highly suggestible, temporarily compromising a person's free will. When Tue heard about the drug, it seemed to explain what she had seen in the CCTV footage of her mother with the scammers.
She just followed every instruction she was given to the point where she was like a zombie, but she was herself, because with the devil's breath you don't lose yourself. You're just very complicit to whatever is going on, and you follow instructions very clearly, and that's exactly what happened to my mum.
But how plausible is this? Austin Landis is an American journalist in Colombia who has reported on how devil's breath is used by criminals there.
This is the Clínica Las Américas, a hospital and center for health specialists in the city of Medellin. Staff here are used to treating people who have been robbed or sexually assaulted under the influence of scopolamine. the number of cases tends to go up around payday and during city festivals. I spoke to toxicologist Dr. Hugo Alberto Gallego.
Criminals target those who are alone and may approach them pretending to help, but actually seeking to exploit them.
He says criminals most often slip the drug into a drink, but they may also spray it into a victim's face as a mist or perfume.
Well, methods they have used on the street include, for example, using a magazine or a book. They open it and ask the person for a direction, a phone number, or offer to sell them a book or a Bible. They bring the book or magazine close to the person. Another method is to offer soap, perfume, or an air freshener for a car or home. They open it and the person, upon smelling it, may start to feel the effects within a few minutes. When the person begins to notice the effects, they lose their will and comply. For example, the wife of a friend experienced this in a nearby neighborhood. They offered her something at the door and asked if she had cash. She said yes, and they asked her to bring it so they could keep it safe. She complied, but once the effect wore off, she wondered why she gave them the money. By then, they had already left. The criminal knows this, so they don't need to force or mistreat the person. The person just obeys. It happens the same way if the person has money in the bank. They might be asked to withdraw money and hand over their PIN number.
Initially, a victim may feel dizzy, but after effects can include memory loss and even complete amnesia. Recently, I've reported on a number of cases in which foreign tourists had their drinks drugged and then were robbed after arranging to meet women through dating apps. In the most extreme cases, some men have been killed.
Devil's breath has also been used in robberies in Ecuador, France, and Vietnam. But is it really being used to turbocharge blessing scams in Britain? Tué admits that there is no firm evidence to support her theory. The drug passes through the body very quickly, so it's difficult to test for, even if you know what you're looking for. Mung Ni, who we heard from earlier, also doesn't believe she was drugged. It's not clear how Tué's mother would have been given devil's breath, though Tué suspects it may have been sprinkled on her mum's coat, which the scammers stopped her from removing. Other victims have suggested they might have been hypnotized, but could it actually have just been skillful psychological manipulation? We just don't know. Meanwhile, warnings about blessing scams are circulating in British Chinese Facebook groups. In the comments, people are posting their own stories of being approached.
Hey, I thought I'd send you a voice note.
And Tué keeps updating me about sightings of suspects.
So they're operating in Romford today,
And there have been unexpected revelations. I asked my colleague Vivian Wong about blessing scams in Hong Kong, where she usually lives. And to my surprise, she told me she had been targeted here in London, not far from the BBC offices where I am now. So I showed her some of Tué's photos of scammer suspects. Okay, hold on. So this is one of them.
Yes, this is exactly.
This one, the second one.
Yes, yes,
What about them?
yes.
These two as well?
This another lady. Yes.
The women were very insistent Vivian accompanied them to see a healer, but she had a lucky escape.
Because from their expressions, they seems very desperate, wanting me to go together with them. I suddenly had some gut feeling that something might be weird, and then so I said, no, I'm in a rush to go to work.
And then Vivian recognized even more faces in the photos.
And then these two women.
Luxury brands. That's the latest BBC News.
Hello and welcome to NewsHour live from the BBC World Service in London. I'm Rebecca Kesby. And we head first to the Middle East, where along with continued fighting in southern Lebanon between Israeli troops and Hezbollah fighters, and another major Israeli airstrike overnight in northern Gaza, there is anticipation that Israel may be about to action its pledge to retaliate to the multiple missile strikes fired at Israel by Iran earlier this month. Later in the programme, we'll be hearing from our reporter who's been embedded with the Israeli troops in southern Lebanon. But first, let's cross live to Jerusalem to our correspondent there, Wira Davis. Thanks for coming on the programme. There are a number of threads to update us on today. First though, can you kind of give us an idea on the political mood there at the moment and these expectations that an Israeli strike of some kind may be coming on Iran? What are you hearing?
Yeah, look, the Israeli Security Cabinet will meet again tonight. Obviously, things were fairly quiet in Israel over the weekend because of the Yom Kippur religious holiday, but things have, picked up again as normal now, and there's this expectation, because there's been a promise from the Israeli Defense Minister that Israel will strike hard, in a lethal way, and Iran won't know what will have hit it, to paraphrase Mr. Gallant. So there's a full expectation here in Israel and amongst Israel's allies that there will be some sort of retaliation against Iran for that unprecedented missile attack from Iran at the start of this month. Now, the Americans are putting a lot of pressure on Israel not to attack Iranian nuclear facilities, and I'm sure Israel would like to do that with American help, but Joe Biden's made it clear that he doesn't want that to happen. So we don't know what form this Israeli attack will take, but it's fully expected that it will happen. And another development on that front, which is quite important, it looks now that the Americans are considering sending a very high-spec, high-altitude missile defense system to Israel in order of an anticipated Iranian response if Israel attacks Iran. And it just goes to show how this war is in real danger of escalating to something much, much bigger. And it also shows, which is important in itself, the degree to which Israel would rely on the United States if there were to be a bigger conflict with Iran.
Certainly sounds rather tense on that front at the moment, where of course the conflict in Lebanon goes on, and we understand there's been quite close fighting in southern Israel, both sides reporting that, and then another warning from Benjamin Netanyahu today for UN peacekeepers to leave the area.
Yeah, there are several thousand Israeli troops inside southern Lebanon, and even in the last couple of hours there have been reports of several injuries on both sides. The Israelis have acknowledged that the scale of the force and the scale to which Hezbollah is much better equipped than Hamas is very different to what they've experienced in Gaza. And this was always the danger for the Israelis in engaging Hezbollah directly by going into Lebanon. There was a risk that it could be even more difficult for Israel than what we've seen over the last year in Gaza. Now, of course, Israel has only been inside Lebanon for a matter of days. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. But the Israelis clearly want to push back the Hezbollah fighters deeper inside Lebanon. They say, in accordance with the UN Resolution 1701, which ended the last war in 2006. And to that end, the Israeli Prime Minister has insisted in a direct message to the UN Secretary General that the UN peacekeeping force withdraw from the front line. But the UN has again insisted that it has a job to do, despite the fact that some of its positions came under fire from Israeli troops over the last couple of days.
Of course, all of this is going on as the war and conflict in Gaza now enters its second year, and there's been more airstrikes in the north overnight and some fatalities.
Yeah, no, and Israel has acknowledged it's fighting wars now on several fronts. And the Gaza war, which started over a year ago, is still continuing. Israel has stepped up its attacks in recent days around the Jabalia refugee camp in the north of Gaza, where there are an estimated 400,000 people in that region, according to aid agencies. Israel appears to be not only trying to get rid of or defeat the remnants of Hamas fighters in that area, but it appears to be trying to clear the area altogether. So its military campaign can be concluded, but also maybe to create a buffer zone between Israel and Gaza.
Thanks so much for joining us live on the line there from Jerusalem, the BBC's Wera Davis. Well, on the subject of that conflict in Gaza, as Wera was saying, there is suspicion among Palestinians, the UN and relief agencies that the IDF is gradually adopting some or all of a new strategy that he alluded to.